sink in. I'll see about it.
The birds are chirping in Kansas City. Nate Taylor is broadcasting from the great outdoors. I've got my window open, and Tucker broke the news to me just a little bit ago that it's supposed to start snowing in about 24 hours here. So if we get anything that we get to only claim for ourselves, I do like that we just own perhaps the weirdest weather in the world. But that's not what I wanted to talk about with you guys today. What I wanted to talk about with you two before we really get the show going was an activity that you guys know that I did this weekend. For my friend Alex's birthday, he planned a bar crawl, a barbecue crawl.
Yes, Lord.
In one day, folks, I think about a 6-hour period, including all the drive time and the whole deal, we went to Joe's, Q39, Jack Stack, Blind Box, Woodyard, and BB's Barbecue while picking from this card of menu items that he so carefully crafted for us.
Thank you, Jesus.
I do want to endorse this as something that people should do. I also want to say I think the sweet spot for keeping your group's stomach capacity where it needs to be is probably 5 restaurants. We did 6. There were 7 on the itinerary originally. And look, man, I'm not saying that those are not necessarily my top 6. This was logistical, and I feel like he came up with a great list and some great menu items. But I was a little bit disappointed when nobody joined me at Chef Jay for a little brunch the next morning. I thought I still had some more room. Seth, you want to come around and we'll do a little barbecue crawl together?
Dude, the fact that we haven't done this yet, this is not only do I want to do this, we are going to do this. I don't care how we create content out of it. I don't care what we do. I don't care if it's videos on our phone. I don't care whatever it is. We are going to do a barbecue crawl together. And I am going to once again horrify you and shock you.
Nate is showing the pictures I was sending. That is Alec Wahlberg holding the barbecue sundae from BB's Lawns. We were in a mental place at that point.
Happy birthday, Alec. That's awesome.
Happy birthday.
What a great idea. And Josh, you plan this. If you build it, I will come.
That's what I'm afraid of, actually. That's why I'm not going to do it. The new horrifying twist on the phrase meat sweats. Welcome to Only Weird Games here. Joshua Brisco, Seth Keysor, Nate Taylor. Yeah, Nate, what were you gonna add there?
There's another photo in our group exchange that I'm sure Tucker will not let me put on the internet.
Oh no, I can't remember.
Oh, it's not a picture of food, kids.
No, I didn't think so. I can't remember what Tucker has most recently added to the group, but I'm nervous. Oh, is there anything about the Catz brothers? They reintroduced themselves to our lives again this week. We're not going to talk about them any because I've already said their name once, and that's more than they deserve, and it's more than they got in every single tweet announcing the deal that they were involved in. I can't remember what the deal was, but I do know that Jason and Michael Catz of Catz Bros whatever were involved. Deal negotiated by the Catz brothers.
Yes. The Catz brothers negotiated a deal that included the Catz brothers and featured the Catz brothers client, featuring a team that the Catz brothers were working with, and also featuring a sport that the Catz brothers have heard of, while talking on cell phones that the Catz brothers own, on land that the Catz brothers have walked on.
Per sources, the Catz brothers.
But also, can you put it, before you even tell the public what the deal is, our names must be first and last.
Listen, we saw it bookending Chris Jones in the box in week 1. They just want to book. These men were built to bookend.
Now look, ladies and gentlemen, I'm in the early stages of working on a story for theathletic.com that kind of needs the Catz brothers. So, which these two gentlemen do not know about yet. So Whew, what a time.
That's great. Well, listen, I can say my tweets not negotiated by Nate Taylor. My tweets, those are Josh Brisco originals. So I don't need the Catz brothers for anything. I have a hard time believing that anyone needs them for anything. But
I do.
if you say so, Nate,
do.
if you say so, Nate, I believe in you and your ability to get good information out of people who are, by legal standards, technically NFL agents.
I kind of need them to pick up the phone. Between now and like 2 weeks. That's all.
Brett Veach needed to pick up the phone for like 2 months, and I don't think they ever successfully did. So I hope you don't hold your breath. You know what? Nobody has to hold their breath for anymore, though, folks. The Kristian Fulton film review. That's right. It's out. And I'm ready to hear about it. Seth, you can read this in the Chief from the North newsletter. Nate's outside. I've already talked about barbecue. You've already said something regrettable. I feel like it's time to go ahead and talk about the actual work you've done this week regarding the Chiefs. I think you are quite a busy fella in a lot of regards. But the Kristian Fulton film review hit the internet. And I said when we talked about it last week, this is the signing of the offseason so far that I am the most purely excited about. I think after reading your review, I think you may be in a similar headspace.
I think that people should be excited about this signing. I think that I'm just going to have to continually cough for the rest of my life, so that's going to be unfortunate. Here's the big thing. I want to do the thing right away. Let's answer the question right away. Equivalent. If you were to say, not in play style, but on a scale of Orlando Scandrick during his Kansas City time to Trent McDuffie.
I'm sorry, what?
To Trent McDuffie in his Kansas City time.
Orlando Scandrick doesn't even want to be mentioned in Orlando Scandrick's Kansas City time.
He had a solid career before Kansas City. So
Josh, of all the barbecue that you ate on Saturday, ranking from the Z-Man to dog kibble, where would you put?
Exactly. So Kristian Fulton. Imagine if last year the Chiefs had another corner that was the equivalent level, maybe a little better than Jalen Watson. And if you're thinking, wow, that would have been great. I agree. I have to cough again.
Oh, man. Seth choked up just thinking about all those Nazi Johnson snaps.
So Fulton is not an elite corner, but he was a solid one last year. I would even call him a good corner. He hovers in that area to clearly above average to good. He's right in that area. He is a guy who would start on plenty of NFL teams. I might even say the majority of them as your CB2. I think him and Watson are going to have a fight for CB2 to an extent. I think the free agent coming in is probably going to have a bit of an edge. Justin Watson did tweet immediately after the signing. But the reality is 3 corners, they play a ton of snaps. He's a boundary guy. I love this. He's super physical, plays the run really well. That's actually, if you want to go with like PFF's grading, that's where they grade him as at his best. He tackles really physically. He's willing to take on runners. He's willing to take on blockers. He fills lanes. He'll set the edge, like not against like a tackle, but I mean against, wide receivers trying to kick him out.
You noted that he kind of moves like a safety when he's closing sometimes, which I think shows up.
He moves more like a safety, and he's about 5'11" and about 200 pounds. He's built a little more like a safety in some ways. He's a little thicker, tackles very well, very physically. He plays physically in terms of he's a little grabby, a little annoying. He's got a really, really good, and I tried to show this. You'll just have to check it on the Chief of the North newsletter to look at the snaps. I tried to show a couple different snaps where he's allowing receivers running through his zone. He is allowing them to pass through. He stays with them, and then he finds out where he needs to be within his zone. Zone coverage is not a static thing, right? It's really fluid. Your zone kind of bends depending on the wide receivers running through it. And that's something that Fulton is really good at. The example that I think best demonstrated it, of many examples I could have used, was a play where he had the tight end come through his zone, then break towards the middle of the field. He hit on that route, then passed it off, and then climbed. And what do you know? A running back was going to that vacated space where leaving, and that's where the throw goes, except he didn't vacate the space and makes a strong finish for a tackle. Clearly a smart guy, calling stuff out before the snap, a very Spagsy corner. There's a lot to like in his film. He's better in zone than he is in man, but in man, he's at his best in one of two situations, being farther off man to where he can drive on the throw. He contests strong. He's more than willing to compete for the ball in the air, whether it's down the field or short. That's a big deal. That's something that, like, if you were to pick the one area where McDuffie is average, that's the ball skills portion. Because we've seen that multiple times where he's right in the guy's hip pocket. The ball still gets completed. He's more like Watson in that regard, in that he's willing to go up and compete for it. But he's also at his best if he can maintain contact in man coverage. So if he starts out in man, or if he meets the receiver at the stem of the route, lets the receiver initiate contact so it doesn't draw a flag pretty much ever. But, oh, you ran into me. This is terrible. Oh, I've got your hip. Oh, what's happening right now? When he maintains contact, he does a pretty good job feeling cuts. It's something McDuffie does brilliantly. When he's maintaining contact down the field, you can see him feel the cuts coming and go with the receiver. He's not an elite man coverage guy. It's not like McDuffie, but it is solid. So these are all the good things, the very good things. And so then the next natural question is, oh, wow, Seth, that all sounds great. Why isn't he like an elite corner? How are the Chiefs able to get him for 2 years, $20 million? He does not have high level acceleration or quickness. So there's a reason he's not a slot guy overall. He, generally speaking, needs that boundary. He's not going to be dealing with like a ton of whip routes and that kind of stuff, multi-change of direction. He can at times, but it's not consistent. And guys can get him on a double move and run away from him. It's kind of similar. They're dissimilar players in some ways, but it's kind of similar in this way to Jalen Watson, where if you get got with a double move, he's got long speed to catch back up, but that initial 5 to 10 yards, someone can walk away from him there. He's the one that Xavier Worthy ran away from. Now, again, Worthy is real fast, but he got beat on a deep touchdown by Mike Evans because of that. He got beat on a deep touchdown by Xavier Worthy because of that. And one by Rashad Bateman, although that was like a perfect throw. He was actually there in coverage. So he's a guy who, in my opinion, if he came in and played at the exact same level he played at last year, I think it would be kind of a coin flip between whether him or Jalen Watson would be the number 2 corner, which means a big upgrade over everything else in the corner room.
Correct.
And that's what I'm most excited about.
Seth, can he guard Gabe Davis as Nate Dogg asked?
Well, when the Chiefs are playing the Bills, no one can guard Gabe Davis. And there's always, or Mac Hollins, there's always that one dude in Buffalo. You're like, what in the world? So that's he is a guy that he can cover down the field. He'll compete for the ball. One of the first clip that I showed was him making a real nice defense pass on Drake London, which is not easy to do. And I do think, I don't know if he'd win that 5 out of 10 times because London's kind of a freak, but he is a guy who, I'm not touching that comment with a 10.
I know, but it just.
My wife is a safety.
I think I'm a safety if thicker, grabby, and annoying is.
I didn't want to interrupt midstream there for you, Seth, but I almost jutted in with takes one to know one for grabby and annoying or whatever.
Who's been texting Jazz for descriptions of me? This is terrible.
I actually think we just found Jazz's actual burner. I think she has been a huge Jazz. Her name is right there. It's been there the whole time. She's been torturing you from the comment section.
Mm-hmm.
And she had, which that actually tracks. So there's a lot that there's a lot to like there. I love that he's a boundary corner. Basically purely a boundary corner, unless they plan on using him completely differently than how the Chargers used him, which seemed to work out pretty well. Say again?
He will be a boundary corner.
And that is beautiful news, because what that means is you end up with Trent McDuffie on the field 100% of the snaps. But when you've got 3 corners, which is probably about between 60 to 80% of the snaps, depending on who you're playing, now you've got McDuffie in the slot, 2 competent to good boundary corners. This is the formula for a Spags defense. Okay. I know a lot of people talk about, the pass rush and stuff, and having Chris Jones is a cheat code, but 2023 was the year of, we can cover your guys. man, zone, whatever you run. We've got 3 guys that we trust completely to cover. Now, is he going to be able to play at the level of the Jerry Sneed? We covered this a little bit last week. I don't think so. No, he doesn't have that same high-end acceleration and quickness that Sneed also had to go along with being a bigger built guy.
Right.
But he is good. And so, like I said, imagine if talent-wise and ability-wise and production-wise, you had another Jalen Watson on the roster last year. You could see the difference it made having one Jalen Watson versus him being out versus in. This is where Spag's defense thrives if you've got multiple corners that you trust, especially guys that can tackle, because like the wide receiver screen stuff doesn't work as well. All of this. I think there's a chance, and you never know how guys will adapt to a system, how they'll play. But if he plays the way he did last year and you get the same thing with Watson, you have the Chiefs at least something resembling the level that you had in that 2023 season in terms of being able to dictate to opponents the matchups as opposed to trying to hide guys like they were last year.
And lastly, to add on that, this is especially true considering the 2 opponents the Chiefs beat to get to the Super Bowl. The Houston Texans, who would love to have multiple wide receivers, in particular in bunch formations, and the Buffalo Bills, who would like to have multiple wide receivers on the field so that Khalil Shakur can be in the slot. So, again, teams that are chasing you, how can you counteract them? The Chargers might be slightly different if they, continue to rise with Jim Harbaugh in terms of maybe more 2 tight end sets than 3 wide receiver sets. But yes, comparably across much of the competition in the AFC, this is honestly just as big of a move as Jalen Moore. It's just this move doesn't come with the expectations of the left tackle situation, the quarterback, and therefore the entire offense falling upon your shoulders due to the responsibility of that position. But the Chiefs decided on 2 players that they believe can continue to develop, continue to grow as full-time starters in the NFL in Jalen Moore and Kristian Fulton.
And we've talked about this. We talked about this right after he signed. Seth just inferred this and wrote about it a little bit in the newsletter as well. But obviously, Jalen Moore feels like that's the piece of Flex Seal over the hole in the infomercial, where it's like, uh-oh, slap. We're okay. Thank God. Flex Seal, Seth, you familiar? You look like
no, it's not that. I see the comment that I feel like people forgot the entire defense sucked in the Super Bowl. No, they didn't.
They gave up
not for a single half.
They held on for as long as they could have reasonably be expected to hold on.
Okay,
in
here we
any
go. Now I got to look up Super Bowl.
Got to look at it
again.
drive by drive, man.
That's fine. You do
they
that.
Held on as long as humanly possible.
Yeah, no, we've covered. Defense was good in the Super Bowl until the game was
good
over.
enough. Definitely good enough. Yes,
for sure. I'll take that. But there is still a domino effect with Fulton that makes me so happy. That makes all of us so happy because Nate, you were telling us it might have not even been training camp yet. It might have been mini camp when you were telling me and Seth we were like, they're not going to have Shamari Connor in the slot all year, right? And you were like, yeah. And we were both getting more and more angry. And I was like, I'm like, you know what? I don't do this very often, but I am simply going to choose to not believe Nate.
Boys.
Yeah.
He will be in the slot.
Now listen, in the defense of old me and Seth over here, didn't go great. not what you wanted, and it's not what they signed up for.
Well, hey, that's
what
the coaches decide to do, Josh. You think you know more about football than Steve Spagnuolo? I don't think so.
That's actually
literally
kind of a good.
Everything they do.
Hey, can I?
Sorry, I've been reading.
Let me share one detail to annoy people.
Oh, God.
You know how many plays the Chiefs ran in the first half of the Super Bowl? The Chiefs ran 20. You want to know how many plays the Eagles ran on offense in the first half of the Super Bowl?
They might have doubled them up. It might be.
It was 39. 40, right? Yes.
Oh my God!
It was basically 2-1.
Hang on. Let me add one more thing in there. Let me add one more thing. How many points did the Chiefs offense put on the field for themselves versus how many they put on the field for the Eagles? Like that was the defense did everything you could have really expected in that particular scenario. And
Eagles ran
eventually
1,000
against a good team, when your offense keeps giving them the ball over
Right.
and over and over,
Immediately.
eventually you fail. They could have been
Right.
the 85 Bears mixed with the 2003 Ravens or Bucks, sorry, mixed with the whatever year Ravens, and it wouldn't have mattered. You cannot hold off against a good, really good offense for an entire game. That just doesn't work that way.
You want to learn another depressing stat?
No.
Good,
In the second half,
what are we doing?
Second half, when the Chiefs were, in comeback mode,
$2,000. Kendrick said the game was over.
the Eagles still ran more plays than the Chiefs in the second half.
No, it was so bad. And so anyway, but here's the interesting thing though. You want to make sure not to overcorrect based off one game.
Right.
So what do we know about the Chiefs defense last year? We do know that the pass rush was not consistent enough.
Yes.
Okay. The pass rush was not consistent enough. We know that throughout the season. We also know that they struggled at the cornerback spot. Here's the deal. So, okay, pass rush was struggling, so we can go out and get a $30 million a year pass rush. Oh, wait, we can't because we got to do this, that, and the other thing.
We got to have a $30 million 2-year linebacker.
And so what can they do? You can. Why did the Chiefs pass rush look so much better or more consistent in 2023 versus 2024 with essentially the same guys? Must be Chris Jones was trying in 2023, not 2024. Absolutely not. It's that coverage and pass rush are symbiotic.
Chris Jones sacrificed his neck so that
Chris Jones was
so
just
that nothing else could happen.
Chris Jones was just as elite in 24 as he was in 23. He was unbelievable. However, we've always talked about this. One guy's not enough, especially if you're a little leaky on the back end. And that's one of the things that happened is that they were down a corner, essentially down two, really. And there were guys that could be targeted out there. That leads to fast throws that come in under 2.5 seconds. And the pass rush really becomes irrelevant. And that makes the pass rush look even worse when it's already inconsistent. And so what's the end result? A defense that was good still in 24, Tucker, but not as good. This was
Hey, Tucker, are they ready? I don't think they're ready for a Charles Omenihu update. I don't think they're ready, boys.
You know what we are ready for? Tell him, Tucker.
Shop Chiefs tickets and more with no fees. Plus, save big with code KCSN at ticketsforless.com, the official ticket provider of KC Sports Network.
Success in real estate takes more than vision. It takes the right financial partner. When someone takes something rundown and turns it into something great, that's called a comeback story. Like Bryan Group. They take distressed properties here in KC, completely rework them, and then turn them into valuable real estate. But that kind of work needs the right bank behind it. Enter Emprise Bank. They're not about cookie-cutter loans. They saw Bryan Group's vision, backed them, and now they're making big moves in Kansas City real estate. Talk about your partner in possible. Emprise doesn't do one-size-fits-all financing. They invest in potential and back growth. Visit emprisebank.com/KC to learn more. Emprise Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
From a leaky back end to a vacant front end, Nate, go ahead and give us the Charles Omenihu update, and then we'll talk about the front end. It's a vacant front end, Seth, because there are like 3 guys who are currently paid to play defensive line for the Kansas City Chiefs right now.
Oh, okay.
We'll talk about Jerry Tillery and the rest here, but yeah, Nate, I'm cautiously interested in a Charles Omenihu update.
Okay, so you guys have asked for it in the comments. Thank you for being along this voyage. I know that this is important to you.
A lot of people have also asked why you're in a forest right now, which is awesome. And you can explain however much or little as you want. I hear birds and I see trees.
With birds chirping, a nest slightly to my right shoulder. It's going great. A bird's nest, yes. So look, as I report important news, while also wherever I am. Think about it this way, guys.
Do I need to quote tweet to people that you're doing the breaking news thing?
No. Not let them decide on their own, Seth.
Okay.
Now look, as I've told you before, you kind of know things. I kind of know things. I kind of am aware of stuff. And as I said before free agency started, the person I was most interested in was Charles Omenihu. Now, Here's the update, kids. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to inform you about the business of football. Charles Omenihu has repeatedly tweeted and deleted tweets. I can't click on the tweets fast enough before he deletes them, but he knows that I know that he knows that I know I saw them. Okay, so much respect to him. You know, some people might slide through DMs, or you could tweet something and ghost them before they can even say, what did he just do?
The number of times I've seen in my mentions people like, oh, man, Omenihu, and then I look, I'm like, I don't see anything.
Now, a couple things are happening. The league is kind of at a standstill for the obvious reasons. Aaron Rodgers wants more attention.
Oh, at least we've stopped the turning of the earth for a good reason.
So, a couple things have happened. If Aaron Rodgers,
would Deshaun Watson like to it? That's not fair to Aaron Rodgers. I picked the only player who it's unfair to compare him to.
Sorry. If Aaron Rodgers decides that he still wants to play football, which we all know is probably going to happen with, I don't know, the Minnesota Vikings, that will start things again. That will get things moving in a certain direction because, I don't know, Seth, you're up there. What do the Vikings need on defense?
They need.
Come on, just give it to me.
They need a pass rusher who can rotate inside and outside.
Oh, and I'm sorry, is that a blitz heavy scheme that they run as well?
It is.
Look. All I'm saying is there's a business to all of this, ladies and gentlemen, and depending on where things go, we might have some movement. Now, second thing I'm going to ask both of you, not if you're wondering why we're at a point right now with Charles Omenihu, this is why the second reason is important. Gentlemen and audience, do you know who represents Charles Omenihu?
Not the Catz brothers, thank God.
And there's a deep drive to left field. I don't know if I'm going to be here tomorrow.
Sorry, I gotta stop.
Wait,
up.
Do they?
No, they do. No, Seth, that's the joke. They don't.
I would have known.
Charles Omenihu. If I say his name, some people in front offices shudder because he's built a reputation.
Drew.
Nope, it's not Drew.
Oh,
it's the other guy. It's the. Oh yes, T. Smith is aware of what is occurring.
Oh yeah, I'm not aware of the lore around David Mulugeta.
Bless you.
Oh, it's happening, kids. Mulugeta's rising up in charts. Okay, now he wanted the smooth ones. Okay, he wanted the smooth ones. You don't really see him out there, but when he pops out, he pops out. Okay, and I'm sorry, did he just reset the cornerback market?
Well,
has he considered how good of an agent he would be if he rode his clients around on their shoulders like a little little puppet?
David Mulugeta is more quiet.
Interesting, and that's working better for him.
He more
than riding around on Chris Jones's shoulders. I mean, anyone's shoulders.
He more knifing you in the middle of the night on a show that I'm rewatching called Shogun. Look, he's really good at this. All right. Now, sometimes the market tells you something, and sometimes I won't say you panic, but you react to what the market tells you. We're human beings. It's human nature. We get it. We all done been there. Some agents like to lay low. All right, well, we're just gonna see what happens. And there's this other thing occurring. And if I know things go a certain way, a certain direction, I create some market. Ladies and gentlemen, start praying that Aaron Rodgers is not a member of the Minnesota Vikings, and start praying.
Wait, what doesn't make any
not a member?
What? Really?
Okay,
not
makes sense.
And also, look,
I'm not praying about Aaron Rodgers. Period. For the record.
Well, I'm asking you
all
to,
need prayer.
If you want this man in your uniform. Mulugeta might take this post-draft. He might. David Mulugeta will move when he's ready to be moved. And right now, he ain't moving because there's no reason to be moved. And
no,
look,
I think that makes some sense. Like, you can figure it out. Like, I'm a little bit surprised more guys don't try to be the most desirable 3 a.m. bars closing signing, to use some Nate Taylor terms here in the storytelling.
D-Mac
be the prettiest pass rusher at 3 a.m. Yeah,
that's right. Or
desperation.
Or hey, you want to go to the diner?
I'm really glad
we don't even have to shut it down. We can just go to the diner. We can just go from the bar to the Waffle House.
Somebody took Joshua Uche out of there at 10:30. If Charles Omenihu is still there at 3,
look, take it from someone who has managed to.
Do you want me to take another break or something? This
utilize
feels like
desperation to marry way out of his league. It's underrated.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people get desperate and they get foolish. And you know what looks kind of good at 3 a.m.?
And see.
No, let's just get Seth out of here. That's to protect Jazz, not to protect him. Go ahead, Nate, and finish your thought.
So look, hey, we
I
need
can't with this guy.
We need somebody who can, again, have similar traits, can go inside and outside, who's got a little wiggle to him, was very consistent against the run because that's where everything starts. And oh, by the way, we've played against him a couple times. We've seen the talent he possesses. What if he just happened to play next to, I don't know, a world destroyer in Chris Jones? Let's just, give Jerry a call. Give him another call and see. This is where we are because Jerry Tillery's gonna get snaps, kids. Now you could say, well, look, let's see how the draft goes. A lot of good defensive linemen in this draft. That's also true. All I'm saying is I expect to see a lot more tweets from Charles Omenihu in the meantime that I don't see in the meantime.
That is one thing that with like a great agent, like he's got to be like, dude, shut up.
No, just let them. They know.
Great. Now we've got Charles Omenihu hater Seth Keysor coming back for round 2, telling him to shut up and dribble.
I want him to get the
Okay, Seth, if that's what you want him to do, I'd like him to be a chief and to do whatever feels good to him. But Seth Keysor told Charles Omenihu to shut up and dribble. Wow.
Stop tweeting and get in your 3-point stance.
You're an athlete and you'll never be anything more than that. Seth Keysor, 2025. Wow, Seth.
Oh my God. So
can't believe you said that.
I'm at the point now, kids, where if something happens sooner rather than later, that would be a bit of a surprise. Things can obviously change over the course of free agency. That's why it's entertaining and exciting and interesting, compelling for a lot of reasons. But as we talked about before, guys are usually signing for 1-year deals right now. Everything that I've said previously about Charles Omenihu has held serve pretty much. Like no one's broken serve. So we're just waiting to see who's going to take that shot down the line instead of going cross court and backhand to backhand, But how David Mugeta right now might as well be Novak Djokovic. I'll just do this all day. You want to go 40 shots? Cool. I don't care. We can just keep going right back and forth, And when the time is right, we'll hit that winner down the line.
Are we getting any Willie Gay news? Or are they giving all that money to Jack Cochran?
Great question. Sorry. As it relates to Willie Gay, I did want to check in because I saw the buzz, and you know me, I love seeing some buzz. I did want to check in. I understand that Willie's in a somewhat, I don't know if it's similar, but like Willie's in a decent situation. Willie will have a job next year. We all know this. The Saints, I'm just saying it helped that Justin Reed is now with their team. It also helps too that Justin Reed chose the Saints over the Eagles, because that's going to have, I think, a trickle effect lower down the market.
I don't know if that's your news or if that's just news to me, but that seems like an interesting choice.
Yes. Justin Reed. If Justin Reed had the option between the Eagles and the Chiefs, he would have liked to return to the Chiefs.
Sure.
The Saints. The Saints made it worth it for him to come home.
That makes sense.
And I totally understand.
Sure.
And we all know the Saints cap hell situation. So look, they did some work to get you to come home. Tyrann Mathieu obviously played a role in all of this. I mean, the Eagles need safety help, kids. They don't have a safety right now. Who's a veteran. Obviously, we all know what happens. Yeah, he said it on Up and Adams.
Okay, didn't I
you know,
missed
there were multiple teams who were interested in Justin Reed. And again, Justin Reed was not as much of a priority as he probably wanted to be from the Chiefs in terms of being retained, considering where the cap moved. And hey, we got to carry this man on a franchise tag because we can't even let him get to free agency in Trey Smith. So again, all these things have a domino effect or ripple effect, I guess is a better analogy. But when it comes to Willie Gay, like maybe post-draft, like what if the Chiefs don't take a linebacker in the draft because they feel comfortable about their linebacker room now? Okay, well then you might want to swing back and do something. We're getting to the point in free agency too where I want to remind people, like, you don't have to make a decision between now and the draft. Right. If it's good for you and you feel good about it and you don't know if the money's going to change between now and say the draft or after the draft, then go ahead, take it, do your thing. If you want to ensure you have a job, do that. Total respect to you. I don't think Charles Omenihu and Willie Gay are in those categories. So it took Tyrann Mathieu weeks.
Yeah.
When he was a free agent. And so it's just
Dan Sorensen signed with the Saints before Tyrann Mathieu did that year. That's just a real thing. That actually happened.
A real thing. Yes.
I had to look it up to make sure that I was correctly finger wagging at people who were saying that Justin Reed was following the Tyrann Mathieu plan. I know they both started in Houston also, but before that, not relevant. I needed Daniel Sorensen.
Yes. So that's where we are. I hope that makes sense to people. Again, things could happen. Again, Aaron Rodgers is kind of think about Russell Westbrook or not Russell. Well, don't think about Russell Westbrook. Think about Russell Wilson.
Not a terrible comp
because Russell Wilson's livelihood depends on what is Aaron Rodgers gonna do. And I don't know. I don't think I could. I don't believe I said that sentence in the year 2025. But here we are.
Let's actually talk about the guy that the Chiefs did add to the mix. Seth, you've done a little bit of Jerry Tillery film, it looks like. You've gotten a very, very early start on that based off what I've seen for a couple of clips. I know you don't have anything written up yet. Jerry Tillery is who we're talking about. I feel like I just shook you and saw the fog. And
he's a good player, by the way.
He seems like a good player.
Good player.
And then Derek Nottie, the final member of the final remaining member of Brett Veasa's first draft class, Derek Nottie has signed with the New York Jets. So Nottie out, Jerry Tillery in. Obviously, Tershawn Wharton signed a big deal with the Panthers before that. But yeah, Seth, what did you see from Jerry Tillery so far?
So Tillery is not a replacement for Derek Nottie. They play different positions. Defensive tackle being referred to just as defensive tackle, I think confuses a lot of people. Derek Nottie is a pure 0 or 1 tech. He lines up directly across from the center or a little to the left or a little to the right. That's what he does. And then his job is don't move.
Don't be
what they do to you.
Yeah. Be an anchor.
Move. You
be just that anchor.
Tillery is, in theory, a rental replacement for Tershawn Wharton's production. Now, will he be able to do it? There's a reason Wharton got paid, and Tillery was available for relatively cheap. Here's what I'll say. I'm going to hopefully have this write-up done tomorrow, given the way I've been constantly breaking promises to people lately. It'll probably be Thursday instead. I want to make sure that I at least get at least 300 snaps as a good baseline. What I'm seeing so far, Tillery, on a talent level, should be able to best Tershawn Wharton's production. And actually, not easily, but he's got Tershawn Wharton's athleticism, most of it, and he's got better functional strength. He's talented and has been for years. Issue with him is he runs hot and cold. And by that, I mean focus and concentration and effort. All the things that people say about Chris Jones that, in my opinion, aren't really true. Those are true about Tillery, at least sometimes. Now, here's the deal.
I think that was kind of with him coming out of college too, right? Yep. Like, I'm not misremembering that. Okay.
And he's been able to, I don't know if you remember, I've actually always liked Tillery, partly because, and maybe this is kind of like when you run hot and cold as a player and effort is kind of an issue. Maybe he got up a little more for Chiefs games, considering, the backdrop of all that. He gave the Chiefs problems. And that's at least worth noting. The Vikings utilized him all over the place. He can line up in a 3-tech. He can line up as a 5-tech, right across from the tackle. He can even do a little bit, from the outside. He's not a 1-tech guy. You can have him play all over. My guess is his primary role will be similar to Tershawn Wharton's, playing inside on 2nd and long, 3rd and long, obvious passing downs, that sort of thing. He's a very talented player who has the potential to really have a really great season in Kansas City. Thing is, I'm assuming these are all the things Minnesota thought last year too, and he was pretty inconsistent there. You'll get some splash plays, and then you get some poor plays.
Yeah, when he pops, he really does pop. But
yes, when he pops, he really pops. He's got a fairly rare combination of athleticism, size, and functional strength. That's hard to find in a guy. And I think what you have here, you're not going to get a guy that talented for that cheap anywhere else. And I do think, and again, I'll talk a little more about consistency, hopefully Thursday when I've had time to go over all the snaps. But the big thing there is, can you replace Wharton's production? Because honestly, until last year, this was kind of Wharton's problem, was consistency. I don't think that was an effort issue, though. So he's 28, Tillery is. Defensive linemen usually peak around 27, 28, 29, right? This is also potentially his last shot at a big payday. Because if you come to Kansas City and you get 6 to 8 sacks, make a few splash plays in the playoffs. Did you see what Tershawn Wharton just got?
Yeah.
And with Tillery, he's got a natural advantage that he's a former first-round pick. And that matters. Even all these years later, that matters. So really good signing with a potentially really high ceiling and a relatively low floor. He's a guy that should be able to eat up 300 or 400 snaps, no problem, without being a problem. But there's potential for a higher ceiling than that. I'll have more to say about it, but I liked the splash plays are interesting because they've needed more of that.
That feels like a good bet. Nate, I want to know what you think the plan is for him and all that. I'm going to give you a couple things of baseline to note here. One being that Tershawn Wharton last year played he actually played 667 snaps. That's about 61% while not playing. He had a handful in week 18, but not a full workload. So he was playing more than, let's say, 62% of the snaps in games that mattered for the Chiefs last year. And then I don't know that you can answer this question now, Seth, but I think it's a really interesting one from Martine that you can watch on for the film review. When you say pop, what do you mean? Is he popping for a play and then he's out of position for a couple plays? Does he have hot games, hot weeks, hot months? I want you to try to answer that on Thursday.
Yes.
Because I want to see that.
How long is the pop?
How long is the pop? Yeah, and then kind of what, does he have? This is another level for you. You're okay doing your own job, Seth, but I'll give you some free prompts just for fun. Do his pops look like Chris Jones once a year, or does his floor look like a guy who shouldn't be on the field? That's just a really interesting way that you've kind of framed it, and I want to get some more info on that on Thursday. On that line, Nate, is this 60-70% of the snaps for Tillery? Is that plan A? Do the Chiefs like him a lot? Again, first-round pick, like Seth said, first-round pick back in 2019, and then he's bounced around a little bit for some of those reasons. What are the Chiefs hoping to get out of Jerry Tillery?
Yeah, if they could get something similar to Tershawn Wharton with less snaps, that would be just fine by them. I think what's exciting for him, and I know we haven't talked to the guys who've signed, we haven't talked to the free agents signings just yet. That should be relatively soon as well, so we can obviously provide a little bit more insight into their own thinking in their first public comments. But for Tillery, it's like, man, I get to play with Chris Jones.
Yeah,
I get to see what Tershawn Wharton did. I get one-on-ones. What? I get to be on a team that I've competed against, and I know how well ran they are. I think it's something to say. There's something to be said, I should say, about the Chiefs targeting you as a veteran when it's like game recognizes game, when it comes to Steve Spagnuolo and him understanding your versatility and where you fit within the larger puzzle of the Chiefs defense. Obviously, the same can go as well for Kristian Fulton. The other thing I would say too is Might be nice if there was a rookie, who could occasionally learn it too, from Chris Jones, Jerry Tillery, Charles Omenihu, George Karlaftis.
Please come back, Charles Omenihu.
Maybe FAU. I mean, it'd be nice if you got a athletic all-world, maybe hasn't put it all together again, defensive tackle in the draft that you could sort of split reps with Tillery, where he will give you stability in September, October, and then maybe it all comes together in November, December, which is what, Nate, like every other Steve Spagnuolo season as a Chiefs defensive coordinator.
I really like what you just did there, Nate, because it's the first time in years where I feel like your heavily insinuated Chiefs draft plan actually made me happy. Because
you're welcome.
Most of the years you do that, you're like, I don't know, Josh. I wouldn't bet your life on them not taking a running back. And I'm like, they're not going to take a running back. And then,
and then they took and then you know what? And then they learned a lesson.
They did. They learned a lesson. I tried to tell them before that, but I guess you can't decide how people learn things.
Humans are complex.
Hey,
as we all are.
Nate, I'm curious if the Chiefs are going to learn any lessons about when they try to sign their rookies who have expiring contracts. Let's talk about that after the break.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network. Make sure you download our new app. Find it on the App Store or Google Play. Just search KC Sports Network. Entertain, educate, inform. KC Sports Network.
The cornerback market is back in the limelight as Derek Stingley Jr. has signed a massive extension with the Houston Texans. The actual framing and reporting around the deal is sort of chaotic. The Spot Track write-up is 3 years, 900 million. Whoa, not hold on. Hold on. Add a zero. Sorry, everybody. That's on me. 3 years, 90 million with now this Spot Track has it with 63.5 guaranteed. The original reporting was 89 million guaranteed. That was involving the 5th year option and all of the numbers swirling around that. So noting
the baseline, if you want to use it, a precedent.
There's some precedent there. The Horn contract came right before this one. And look, Trent McDuffie has 2 years of team control right now, the rest of this year, and then the 5th year option after that. So the Chiefs have a little bit of time to figure out what they want to do with Trent McDuffie, but I am very curious about what they're going to learn here. Trey Smith is still on the franchise tag right now. No long-term deal has been done. Nick Bolton just got a pretty nice size deal as he hit free agency, and then the Chiefs paid up to keep him. Although I do think we learned something about his market. The fact the Chiefs gave him 2 guaranteed years, nobody was trying to beat that, whatever. But now we're in this point with McDuffie where getting ahead, we're in the window to pay him early. We are getting closer and closer to, I think, the time when you would just pay him to keep him around. And then as the next year and so go on, you start to wonder about the future. Now, I tweeted a joke about this, and then Mitchell Schwartz nuked me from space. And then I opened Twitter again 6 hours later to go, what happened here? I was not giving a serious take, and I don't think any of his barbs were terribly personal, but
no, they
weren't. It was still a very, listen, I'm not picking on Josh, which was crazy because that was the first thing I had said about any McDuffie thing in forever. And I think I got sort of lumped in with maybe some more concerned people. I feel like I'm bubbling at like a 5 out of 10 right now. But with that being said, Nate, you take us through the moment of where we stand now. Is this something where we should still be expecting a Chiefs McDuffie deal soon? Should we be talking about the T word, as many people have already? No, thank you. I think that's probably the place to begin.
No.
Joe Tooney just got traded for a 2035 8th round pick or whatever they're getting from Chicago. I think we're overrating what veterans get back, or what players get back, because we saw what Tyreek Hill got back. But yeah, what's the plan with McDuffie now?
Yeah, so I know, ladies and gentlemen, there was still a job to do after the Super Bowl, and guess what? I was on guard. Now, one of the first things I wrote after the Super Bowl was, what do the Chiefs need to do for their offseason? What is their offseason to-do list? Well, the last major point I wrote in The Athletic was this, kids. Sign Trent McDuffie to an extension. Quote, this is a no-brainer, and the Chiefs shouldn't wait. McDuffie is the Chiefs' second-best defender behind only pass rusher Chris Jones. In the past 2 seasons, McDuffie has been an undeniable all-pro cornerback, a defender who can cover from the slot and the perimeter. The sooner the Chiefs sign McDuffie, the easier they can account for his salary cap hits throughout the prime of his career. There's a possibility that McDuffie will improve over the next 2 years. The Chiefs traded L'Jarius Sneed to the Tennessee Titans last year because they had McDuffie. Now, the Chiefs need to ensure that McDuffie plays the first 7 or 8 years of his career in their uniform. That is what I wrote on February 27th. Nothing has changed since then. 2 things. The sooner they get an extension done with Trey Smith, guess what, kids? They can account for his salary cap hits. And everybody on the Chiefs front office will go, okay, you know what? We drafted him. We rewarded him. He was really never the problem. Hallelujah. Trey Smith is here. All right, you want to pick up some of that champagne we just popped? All right, because we gotta get on the phone with Trent's people. Pronto, I tell you, the best case scenario, and this is all I'm going to say now, because all these other scenarios aren't quite as relevant. But Seth, I believe the best case scenario is that either right before or right after the draft, Trey Smith signs his extension with the Chiefs, so we don't get to the May, June, July nonsense of being on the franchise tag. And the sooner you do that, the sooner you can sign Trent McDuffie, well, again, using the 5th-year option as, I don't know, a baseline, a precedent, so that you can sign him before the season starts, just like you did last year with Creed Humphrey. Because remember, kids, these things are layered and they have to coincide with one another. The Chiefs had to retain Chris Jones last year. They did that, and then guess what? They started working on Nick Bolton, Trey Smith, Creed Humphrey. They got one of those deals done, Creed Humphrey, right before the regular season. They need to have a similar experience this offseason where you sign Trey Smith. Now, you use the franchise tag to retain him or to prevent him from the market, which, of course, I don't love, but you need to sign him to an extension, and that way you can make sure that Trent McDuffie is secured and locked up, and before the market continues to balloon, sign him before next season starts, because that price, as Jerry Jones is learning, might continue to go up. Is it Mike Brown? Is it his family? So I don't know. Whoever's bank account is with the Cincinnati Bengals, they learned this past couple weeks. So you shouldn't wait. You should do it before the season starts. And Derek Stingley is a 1-time All-Pro. Trent McDuffie is a 2-time All-Pro. Derek Stingley was drafted 3rd overall. Trent McDuffie was drafted 21st overall. As Seth said, that matters. But every year Trent McDuffie's been in the NFL, the Chiefs have been to the Super Bowl.
And he's been a huge part of that. The thing I would just say with McDuffie, the price does generally go up on a per year basis. You can fiddle around with that somewhat in terms of bonuses and guarantees. And so it's not this unshakable thing. The Jamar Chase situation for the Bengals was a little bit unique because of the whole, not just most highly paid receiver, but it was most highly paid non-quarterback. And so every contract was going to hurt you there. The Chiefs, I understand, the thing Mitch Schwartz was trying to say is, well, they'll save money by not signing him now. To an extent, I get that, like cap hits and stuff. But what you generally do, if you sign a guy, the better. If you sign a guy with 2 years of control, and technically, really, the Chiefs would have an extremely cheap year of his rookie contract this year. Next year, a more expensive but still relatively cheap 5th-year option, and then the franchise tag, which is expensive, but only for 1 year. They technically have 3 years of control here. The advantage of getting a deal done now is the player knows that, and the team knows that, and so you generally just build that in to what it would cost. Like, it's pretty rare. So let's say they somehow accomplish it today or tomorrow. Odds are his cap hits for this year and next year would stay relatively similar to what they currently are. You would just be adding in on the back end that large amount of money, utilizing the franchise tag and the current highest amounts as a baseline. That's generally how that works. When you extend someone 2 years early, and there's been a lot of talk about this, people have debated back and forth, actually ripping up the entire old contract and drafting an entirely new one. I mean, that's usually how it is. It's a new technical contract, but it usually incorporates details from the last couple of years or the next couple of years. And that creates a baseline. Now, it could be because McDuffie hasn't really struggled with health outside his rookie year. Maybe his people are like, no, we're cool waiting because I know I'm going to keep being awesome. And that's one thing to always think about, right? There are some players who are more than willing to bet on their health and bet on themselves. Trent McDuffie knows that barring a serious injury, his leverage only goes up. He was a first-round pick, so he's not as in a hurry to get paid as you might see from some other guys. And also the Chiefs, they do generally try to layer their big contracts, usually only see one, maybe two in offseason, and that allows them to layer the cash as well as the cap. If I were the Chiefs, I would get it done this year. It's not my money, but it's only going to get on a per year basis more expensive. Well, the cap goes up too. Absolutely it does. So if you get it done now, it'll be a smaller percentage of the cap in 3 years than what it'll be if you get it done 2 years from now. And so you'll get a slightly more advantage. Is it a huge thing? No, but it does matter, especially when you are trying to field a competitive Super Bowl contending roster year in after year out. And that is a tough thing to do. That's one thing that people have to understand. Other teams, like last year, there were teams that were like 40 million below the cap. And then that rolls into this year because they knew no matter what they did, they weren't competing for a Super Bowl. Do you have any idea how much easier that makes their lives this year, as well as drafting like in the top 5 instead of at 31? Like the NFL is built for this. You're supposed to be able to upswing if you're not stupid. And so with McDuffie, it makes sense. The team loves him. People, the trade thing really quick, the Tyreek Hill trade was an incredibly unique series of events. For one thing, at the time, Hill was at his absolute apex and was considered one of the best 3 receivers in the league at worst. By many, the best, and by everyone, the most dangerous, right? It's easy to forget that now that we are 22, 23, 24 away. Tyreek Hill was considered easily the most dangerous weapon in the NFL. No one even, it had reached the point to where it was not really even a conversation. It's like, well, who's the best receiver in the NFL? Well, the most dangerous is Tyreek, but who's like the very, very best? That's one thing. McDuffie is a top 5 corner, but that's a slightly different conversation because there's an element of dangerousness that matters for a wide receiver. Now, I would argue Trent McDuffie's ability to seamlessly go into the slot and what a great blitzer he is, that adds something to the conversation, but it's not the same thing. The other thing, the off-field extravaganza stuff, and I'm not talking about like what people think I'm talking about. I'm talking about how things are going with your teammates and how things are going in the locker room. And I want to be really careful how I'm saying this. I'm not saying there was like some big issue there, but I think it's been very clear to Chiefs fans from all the things that you've heard and seen since Hill was traded. Oh, I hate you so much right now, Josh. That Tyreek did have a desire to be the number 1 guy. He said that, right? On his It Needed to Be Said podcast. He wanted to be the guy. And he said it a little tongue-in-cheek, but not really. I say things supposedly tongue-in-cheek all the time that are pretty true. So,
man, I wish I could do a tight zoom on you from here too, but I don't think I know how to do that yet.
I'm deeply uncomfortable with this. So
yeah, me too.
That's where that created a situation where you have an elite player, but also one that maybe you're a little hesitant to give absolute top of market money because you had to consider other factors there. You also have the Patrick Mahomes factor on that side of the ball. You don't have that on the defense. These are all reasons you can't trade him. The other thing, a team fell in love and offered them. If someone called and said, hey, we will give you a first rounder, a second rounder, I believe it was a third rounder, and then like a 5th and a 6th. It was some insane haul.
I think the Jets offered 10, right? Like number 10 overall, I think was reported.
Yeah, there was. If someone called and offered that for McDuffie, Veach would have to think about it.
Sure.
But here, I mean,
he's not getting that call. That phone call's not happening.
That won't happen even with McDuffie having 2 years of cheap control left.
Yeah.
So you can't utilize the Tyreek Hill situation is a completely unique one. And really what all you got to do is look, well, AJ Brown didn't get nearly as much. Look at what corners are fetching in the market. They are not. It's not realistic. You might get offered a first-round pick for Trent McDuffie. And Trent McDuffie is way more valuable to you than that first-round pick, and you're probably not going to get offered that because that's not what the cornerback market is.
The reason why I held up 5 fingers for the viewing audience is because the Chiefs received 5 draft picks in exchange for Tyreek Hill. While you also knew, if you were the Miami Dolphins, you also knew you had to give him a record-setting deal at his position in the market.
Yep.
5 draft picks. And oh, by the way, you do the math, 3 of those 5 draft picks were impact players, and you don't win the Super Bowl the next year without that trade.
The 2022,
you do not win the Super Bowl without that trade.
Right. And so again, if someone wanted to offer that haul for Trent McDuffie, I'd say think about it. Anything less, and you're almost certainly not going to get the same value that you would out of extending Trent McDuffie. Him and Chris Jones, and then later on him, he is someone you can build a defense around. And that's a big, big, big deal.
It's all even more exciting. Again, full circle back to what Kristian Fulton does for this defense where, excuse me, now I'm getting choked up just thinking about it. It's not that Trent McDuffie was playing out of position last year. That would be a little bit overstating it, I guess. But he wasn't playing at his absolute best, most valuable, highest weapon usage spot. And he's going to get to do that again this year with Kristian Fulton and Jalen Watson on the outside. And that's pretty exciting. So if you want to read more from Seth, the Kristian Fulton film review is up now. And the Jerry Tillery one may be up there before Thursday's show. Chief of the North newsletter, mnchiefsfan.substack.com, plus all of Nate's work in The Athletic, and maybe recording outside near a coffee shop near you. I will not dox your location. I did consider it just to see if people would show up before during the show, but I didn't need Radio Row energy the day after St. Patrick's Day. I needed a good old-fashioned podcast out of you guys, and I feel like we did it.
We did a great job, and my computer held up. Considering the birds are just making lovely sounds before imminent doom returns in the form of snow.
Well, why don't you sing along with those birds, and we'll talk about the running back room more. Kareem Hunt is back, as is Juju Smith-Schuster. We'll talk about what those two returning veterans mean for the offense. Plus, if anything else happens tomorrow, we'll add that to the rundown. We'll handle that on Thursday, and then Nate, you can tweet us out of here.
Tweet. Okay. All right. I have a very specific rule, a principle, a way of living. They told me the tournament starts at 5:30. So I filled my brackets today. Okay. I filled my brackets today. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to fill in your brackets now. So it takes the stress off you. Mm-hmm. It's the imminent stress off you on Thursday morning when you ain't gonna be productive anyway. Fill in the bracket now. I did it this afternoon. It was great. I really hope Kansas and Missouri plays, which definitely means that's not gonna happen in the Sweet 16. But yeah, can't wait to watch college basketball on Thursday, while also perhaps be interrupted to talk to Gardner Minshew.
Yeah!